Good morning. My name is Willow Andreasson. Over the past week or two, I've been actually reading chapters from my book, A Journey into the Mysteries of Life, Lessons from the World Beyond, Book 1, The End of the Beginning. And today I've reached chapter 10 of the book, which is entitled, I've Had Enough of This. It's effectively a follow-up to the last chapter, which detailed one of the most interesting experiences I've had in my life. This is a follow-up to that chapter. So this is chapter 10. I've had enough of this. Although no longer attending the open circle at the church, I had learned valuable lessons and skills which will serve me well for the remainder of my life. Other interesting events had occurred during my time there. One of the evenings fell shortly after the 7/7 bombings in central London. During a period of visualization and meditation, a vision of my late great-aunt appeared before me. She began urging me to contact her son, Mum's cousin, who lives and works in London. I remembered that he worked in the area of London worst affected by the bombings. Mum took serious heed of her maternal aunt's message. She called the last contact number she had, leaving messages on the answer phone urging her cousin to get in touch with us. After a week of silence, we all feared the worst. I'm not sure whether Mum contacted the Metropolitan Police or our cousin's local police station, but they turned up in our cousin's flat to check that he was okay. He answered the door to find 2 police officers solemnly standing on the other side. "We think you'd better call your relatives south of the river, son," was the sagely recommendation proffered by one of the officers. One lesson that hadn't been covered during my periods of learning at the church, however, was how to approach Mum with a message imparted by Nana. Finally, I decided that the only way was the direct way. Just explain exactly what happened. Mum's expression remained neutral throughout my recollection of that wonderful September evening. Her expression became solemn, thoughtful, upon hearing Nana's final request. She remained silent. I asked Mum to just think about it. After losing her father and daughter in quick succession less than 10 years before, Mum was understandably reluctant to lose her mother too. But during one glorious moment on Christmas Eve of the same year, mother and daughter were granted their final chance to say goodbye to each other on this dimension. As is quite common with Alzheimer's, the misfiring signals sometimes correct themselves for all too brief moments. Even these moments fade into the distant past as the condition continues its aggressive march. By this time, Nana had been afflicted by Alzheimer's disease for officially about 8 years. It was likely that the true period of illness was nearer 12 or 13 years, based upon notes made in a diary by grandfather, which was unearthed by Mum during the clearance of Nana's house a few years before, and the chances of lucid moments had rapidly diminished as the years marched on. So for Nana and Mum to be granted this one final lucid moment as mother and daughter was truly a Christmas gift from above. For one precious minute, Nana's neurons had decided to fire normally once more. I prefer to think that Nana had decided to step back into her human vessel just to share one last moment with Mum. Nana established eye contact with Mum and told her that she loved her. Mum returned the expression of love. I believe it was at this moment that Mum had assured Nana that if she wished to go, she could do so. Mother and daughter hugged each other tightly. The neurons then failed for the last time. Nana left her body to return to her husband and granddaughter once more. Nana's human vessel held out for another 4 months after the loving goodbye. The end of Nana's beginning commenced during the month of April 2006. Mum and my stepfather were on holiday at the time, unable to return home immediately. My brother and I rushed to the hospital to be with Nana. Nana's physical health had rapidly deteriorated and she was referred to the area's larger hospital. Later scans uncovered the awful truth. Nana had suffered a twisted colon. My brother and I were advised of the findings within hours of the scan. Both options would likely end with the same tragic outcome. We could consent to surgery, but, given Nana's age, she was in her early 80s at that stage, and precarious state of health, The likely outcome would be death on the operating table. We could also opt for no surgical intervention. The consultant assured us that Nana would be made very comfortable and that her last moments would be as dignified and pain-free as possible. My brother called Mum with the news. We all made the decision that Nana had suffered enough over the past few years. We knew that she was going to pass away, surgery or no surgery. We felt that she would prefer a dignified exit. The decision was made, and the consultants advised. We requested the presence of a Roman Catholic priest to administer the last rites. Nana may have been a lapsed Catholic, but we felt she needed this closure. With the cubicle's curtains incubating us, the kindly priest soothed Nana with his assuring words. Nana was frequently mumbling in response. I rapidly realized that another closure was necessary, and that she had stepped back into her human vessel in order to carry out that final act. Shortly after the administration of the last rites, Nana was moved into a side room. The descent into renal failure was masked by the mists of morphine. Our sister's final moments had been blighted by renal failure, and we felt huge distress at watching the effects of multi-organ failure once more. Our distress, however, could not be compared to the distress that Nana must have been experiencing at that time. She must have been feeling the pain, must have been. Nana's final burden was to suffer the agonies of severing the tie from her earthly vessel. A necessity, I reasoned, but a challenging one at that. The sounds of angry arguing roused me from my fitful sleep. Stirring, I realized I had fallen asleep upright in the huge armchair at the foot of the hospital bed. The room was very bright, filled with a clean, golden light. A nurse, clearly agitated, was standing to the right of the bed. Ah, Nana is the patient, of course. But why was she talking? I moved my line of vision to my grandmother. To my complete surprise, she was sitting up in bed. She was not in any pain, but, my word, she looked as though she was spitting nails. Her wonderful Italian temperament infusing the atmosphere, she glared at the endless maze of drips surrounding her. Finally, she couldn't take it any longer. "Grrr, I've had enough of this," she growled, grabbing the tubing and syringes. To the nurse's horror, Nana yanked the tubing from her arm. She battered the plastic tangled mass away from her, pulled the sheets away from her small frame, and hauled herself out of the bed, muttering profanities under her breath. The nurse lurched forward, attempting to persuade Nana to settle once more. I had no doubt at all that her efforts would be utterly futile. Her outstretched hand shoving the nurse into the wall, Nana stormed away from the bed. One thing did surprise me, though. Although she was never averse to using mild swear words, Nana disliked the use of strong profanities. On this occasion, however, she broke her own cardinal rule. "F this, I'm out of here," resonated around us as she stormed out of the room. I opened my eyes, inhaling sharply as I did so. The lighting in the room was muted. The only people around Nana were Mum, my brother, and me. Nana was unconscious and sedated. Her drips were all still securely in place. She was completely silent. I realized I had been dreaming, but also knew that Nana's final act of closure was drawing near. That final moment arrived only 8 hours after the dream, and when the end came, it was sudden. Nana's sheeting was sodden by a leaking saline tube. Concerned that she wasn't comfortable, we had asked a nurse to help us out. As the nurse gently sat Nana up, a brown substance oozed from her mouth. She coughed a couple of times, and then she was gone. We had experienced this moment before with our sister. Nana's liver had failed. Her final act was complete, and Nana had taken her final curtain call. Almost. I stared out of the window as the nurses did what they needed to do. It was a gorgeous spring day. The daffodils were reaching for the blue skies from the grassy knoll outside. The buds were kissing the branches of the trees. I entered into a meditative state, asking grandfather and my sister for a sign that they were all together now. I opened my eyes. At that moment, 3 birds appeared from nowhere, swooping towards the window. I am passionate about animal welfare, and feared that they were going to smash into the glass. They were coming closer and closer. Then, to my total surprise, they suddenly veered skyward. 2 large birds with their chick in the middle, splintering into a trident as they soared into the sky. I burst into tears of relief. Nana was with her husband and granddaughter for good. Nana's funeral took place only days before the 10th anniversary of my sister's passing. The funeral wasn't swamped by sadness. It was a genuine celebration of a wonderful person and her rich life. My eldest daughter would not permit tears from me. "She's free now, Mummy, don't be sad." Oh, from the mouth of babes, she was absolutely right. I have not had the same experiences with Nana since her passing, as in those that I've shared with grandfather and my sister. She has appeared in a couple of dreams, though. In one, she wandered over to me with a beautiful baby girl in her arms. She was excited, beaming, resplendent. She looked so young and healthy again. "Sweetheart," she enthused, holding the baby out to me. "Look at this. I've got my beautiful new little sister here." I mentioned the dream to Mum. She started smiling, commenting, "Well, you know what that's about, don't you?" Mum proceeded to remind me that when younger, Nana had 5 sisters and 1 brother. 4 of the sisters had survived, but 1 sister had been stillborn. Nana had been reunited with her little sister, and from the joyful expression on her face, she was obviously enjoying getting to know her at last. Another dream offered me the answers that had been evading my questions since that night in the spiritualist church back in September 2005. Nana confirmed that she had come through at the church. "Of course it was me," she said. Although she was aware that she had this condition called Alzheimer's disease, she once more assured me that she had not suffered in any way. My body had the condition. I didn't. She had returned to her body only twice in her final months of earthly existence. Once to talk to your mum, once to leave me for good. And with that comment, Nana walked away once more, wearing an enigmatic smile.